Hi, and welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of our Industry Insights interview series. We're very excited this week to be joined by Stephen Wells. Stephen is director of a project consultancy group called Codicote, who have offices and a good presence in Melbourne, Sydney, and quite recently Brisbane. Stephen's also the Honorary Secretary of ICE, which is the Institute of Civil Engineers, which has a lot of similarities to our Novus's parent body, the CIOB, Chartered Institute of Building. Stephen's been a long time supporter of Novus in Victoria through both Codicote and ICE. So it's great to have you on board, Stephen, and get you in front of the camera.
Thank you, Veer, and thank you, Ankita, for the opportunity to speak to you and your members. And yeah, very passionate about working closely with Novus, CIOB, CIBSE, IMECI, iStudy, and other counterpart organisations. And you and Mark Nebshire here and your colleagues have been true collaborators, and I welcome that collaboration to be ongoing. And we've hosted quite a few events now between us all.
Right.
So there's a great empathy and spirit of joining up the professions, which is what is part of our professional being. So thank you, Veer. Thank you, Ankita.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stephen. You're absolutely right. We've done a lot of really successful joint events with yourselves and with the Institute of Building Service Engineers and the like. So hopefully post-COVID, we'll be back on the circuit and clinking glasses again.
Yes.
Ankita's also with us today. Ankita is one of our hardworking Novus Victoria community members. Ankita graduated a couple of years ago with a Masters in Construction Management from the University of Melbourne, and has also been in the work in the construction industry for a couple of years post-graduation. Thanks for being here today, Ankita.
Thanks, Veer, for inviting me on this. Thank you. Thanks, Ethan.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Ankita, I might hand over to you to kick things off.
Yep. Thanks, Veer, for a lovely introduction. And hi, Stephen. I hope you're doing really well today. Being a Friday, it's a really great day to have an interview. And because it's like a free day for you, I guess, like the end of the week. But yeah, I know you're a busy man though. So let's consider it as a good start. So, hi, Stephen. We would like to know more about your university experience. As like I'm also a recent graduate, so I'm really keen to hear something from you on your university experience. Like, how was your university experience in University of Surrey, and how did it all go around?
Thank you for that very first question. Look, I went to the University of Surrey, which was a 4-year thick sandwich degree in civil engineering, and I graduated with an upper second in 1982. I would say that the counterpart universities, University of Loughborough and City University, were of comparable stature. They were the preeminent universities that were conducting thin and thick sandwich degrees. And I think what made it for me was that not just the university excellence in academic study, it was about integrating with industry and becoming highly employable. Fascinating that University of Surrey had and still retains the best employability factor for all universities throughout the UK. And I think the blend of practicable academic study on design codes and you being ready for shovel ready, as it were, to go into either consultancy or tier 1 global contractors was a high advantage of going to that fantastic university. I'm proud of the fact that it was generated from a post-Second World War technical college basis in the 1960s, but it got its full university accreditation in the late 1960s. And I think that started to show that non-Ivy League universities were chasing excellence in academic achievement. And I think the blend, as I've just said, with being highly employable was a good combination. And I think University of Surrey cracked that dynamic of being employable, because you not only need the academic excellence and knowledge of how to design things and how to build things and how to be innovative, you need the combination of both. The great news is that several of my peer groups, colleagues, have gone on to be chief execs of FTSE 250 tier one global contractors from the University of Surrey. So, and when I was on the board of Costain from 2003 to 2011, there was more Surrey graduates on the board of Costain than any other university. So I'm not trying to be competitive, but I think yes, I think in context, it shows you that's what the government post Second World War in a lot of countries were achieving academic excellence and rebuilding economies and population and national infrastructure. So great first question. And I think, I had my third year was on site at university, from university, was building a major section of the M25 around London. And I think the fact that as a 20-year-old, you are put in charge of a piece of critical infrastructure near Heathrow Airport that keeps the nation working, delivering freight, people going to see their families and friends, and people going to work. So I think very early on in my career, you saw the juxtaposition of your academic studies then materializing in the third year out from university, building stuff, and you've got to build it, perfectly well to the spec, because you've got huge amounts of people and traffic and goods traveling around the nation. So it's a great 4-year course.
It's one of my it's one of my points of envy of a lot of the UK universities, and I've always been a strong advocate for better industry experience here in Australia. I'm not very familiar with the University of Surrey, but I'm quite familiar with Loughborough, that you mentioned as one of your sort of competitors and one of your sort of peer universities, and I know that they've got a very strong industry placement program, and I really do hope that our Victorian and Australian universities can get to the sort of industry placement standard that we see from the UK universities. And I think what you've described tells us that it's a really effective recipe for success and for better graduates. You're employable because you've had that experience through your tertiary education, whereas a lot of our grads come out not necessarily at their own fault, because they've had to dedicate all their time and energy to studies. But they come out, sort of without that hands-on experience. And I think the universities need to step up, build better links to industry, and start getting university students into placement in their degrees.
Yes, I totally agree with you. You make a very good point. Good. So.
And Stephen, for a fact, I remember you giving me a lecture in University of Melbourne in a means and methods class regarding risk management. Because when Veer mentioned your name, and I was like, okay, this name is really familiar to me. And when I went back to my notes of means and methods, I was like, okay, I have a lecture by you for risk management. And I was like, and it was so great seeing you then and now again. The lecture was really interesting, and it's like a great opportunity for me to like have a talk with you right now. That time it was not a big one, but right now it's like really interesting to talk to you and know more about you in that sphere.
Thank you. Well, you're very kind. I think you've mentioned a very important part of everything we do daily: risk management, and we're employed to not just design and build things that operate correctly, but you think about all the people that use the assets that we produce with great pride, and the risk in terms of doing it correctly, designing it correctly, we're all proud of what we do. And I think, risk, you've got to stand aside and say, have we designed this appropriately? Will it enable people to go about their daily lives, and all the stakeholders, will they be safe and well through using our assets? And I think one of the things we learned at university is, if we get it wrong, we can impact a lot of people. And I think that's very important to keep in the back of your mind, that everything we do touches, communities. And I think, whilst it's a big responsibility, I think we're all charged with owning that responsibility and cherishing it. And I think that's the DNA of engineers and builders. You go through life owning that responsibility, and you mitigate risk. And I think it's all part of your job. And you've got to keep the challenging questions. Have we designed it correctly? Have we thought about all the safety aspects? And I think if you keep asking that question, you'll be good, and you'll do a good job. So yes,
that's
it's
right.
important.
Absolutely.
That's 100% right. And Stephen, after that, having like a big, like 4 years of course of civil engineering from University of Surrey, I would like to know more about, like, how was it for you to step into the real world, as we know how we mentioned about the first project, but like as a fresh graduate, how did you feel stepping into the real world? Because like, I feel nowadays that's a big thing for graduates like us. Like we are like in the 2 years course, 3 years course, and then suddenly stepping into the real world of like building.
Yes, there's a eureka moment when you proudly hold your certificate with your friends and family, being photographed in your university gowns and cap. Look, I think you've heard that I did a thick sandwich course. So the year out actually was the seminal time when it said, yes, this is what I love doing. This is what I want to do. I want to be a professional chartered civil engineer, and you can be valuable and useful doing a job of work, and that the company you're working for is going to train and look after you and put you on the professional career ladder. So I think the great thing about the Institution of Civil Engineers is that we have a chartered program for development, and like the CIOB and other professional bodies, it's well structured and well thought through. So I joined Wimpey Engineering Construction in November '82, just after I graduated, and I was on a 3-year graduate training program that was recognized by the ICE, and essentially it's either 2 years on construction sites and 1 year in a design office, or vice versa. If you're in a consulting organization, you do 2 years in the office and 1 year on site. I actually did 5 years of professional training because I'm slow, and what I found myself doing is for 2.5 years I was on 6 different construction sites around the United Kingdom. Interestingly, that was quite hellish because you're doing 6-month placements, but I saw an awful lot of construction across different sectors. I was on the M25, another section of M25. I was on a pharmaceutical headquarters. I was on a big industrial units project which included demolition. I was on a piling job by the River Thames in Erith in the east of Kent, and then I was on a residential site. So I think what I found, and then I was on a metropolitan police station in the centre of London. So I think 6 projects in 2.5 years, you learn an awful lot about different types of construction. So the brain is like the sponge. So you're coming out of university and you soak up all this fantastic different construction methodology, and it was a great education because 6 sites in 2.5 years, fantastic.
Absolutely.
that then conditioned me for going into the design office in January 1985. And I spent 2.5 years in the design office. And I was a structural engineer, and you end up looking at projects where you're designing things for Algerian townships, a trustee savings bank headquarters. So you're designing piling, reinforced concrete, timber, masonry, steelwork. So suddenly you're designing structures, including the substructure piling. So you're talking to geotechnical engineers, you're looking at the load allowances, and suddenly everything you're designing is being built, because in 1985 there was a huge explosion of design and build contracting. The traditional form of contracting was was becoming dormant. So it was exciting because design and build contracting was becoming the thing where tier one contractors took charge of design.
Yeah.
So I think over the 2.5 years in the design office, I came to this decision, well, do I want to be a tier one global contractor, or do I want to be a mainstream structural engineer? And so I actually had two important choices. Which way do I want to go? And I think that was a great part of being on chartered civil engineering training under the ICE internship. And in the end, I decided to stay a tier one global contractor. And I took my chartered professional exam in October '87, and I passed first time. So I think that was the 5 years culmination. But your question about being ready, are you you're out of the academic world, and the real world becomes who you are. And I think the great thing is you very quickly learn that you've got valuable skills, and you work with colleagues who you can learn a lot from. And a huge part of the job is learning from your colleagues and other professionals, architects, building service engineers, mechanical engineers. All these people have got different skills that you have to understand. And fascinating, you need to understand all the language, because we've all got different language as builders, civil engineers, structural engineers, architects, and no one profession does it all. So suddenly you've got this fantastic degree in civil engineering, but you've got to do multidisciplinary. You've got to know how all the jigsaw puzzle pieces add up. And I think that was the 5 years of learning that makes you a better and rounded person.
I mean, it sounds like a fantastic sort of early journey and a really strong graduate program. And it sounds like you would have just learned absolute bucket loads. And, it'd be good to see more of that in Oz. And I think what you're talking about there as well is, being a fresh graduate, it's that balance of, I think, being the sponge and learning off as many people as possible and asking as many questions as possible, but also backing yourself. Because as you said, Stephen, you've actually got a skill set. You've got knowledge way there in the back somewhere that you probably forgot you had. And sometimes, it's a confidence game. And, you typically do know, you have an idea of what the solution is, and you know what's right and what's wrong, or what's going to work and what's not going to work. But you've just got to sort of back yourself and trust yourself as well in those early years.
Yes.
Now, so you've gone through the first 5 years, and you've been in a grad program and then in the design office. And then I guess you're looking to spring up, and you've also, done your sort of qualification with ICE, and then you're looking to spring up into, say, middle management. How did you start, I guess, making yourself visible, or putting yourself on the ballot, if you will, to sort of climb the ladder a bit, take those next steps and start asserting yourself as, I'm not the grad anymore, I'm not the junior. I'm now the I'm now looking to, you know, manage teams and manage projects myself.
Great question, Veer and Keita. Look, I think that's exactly right. So in mid '87, with my newly found chartered status, pretty much, you then have to say, well, what's the next part, the next chapter? So I was fortunate that I was being considered for the Channel Tunnel project.
Awesome.
And there was another project in the Conway Crossing up in North Wales, which was linking the Wirral, Liverpool and Manchester, to Anglesey along the A55. Now, Conway Crossing has got a very famous castle, and the solution up there was a twin immersed tube tunnel, the first ever immersed tube tunnel to be considered in the UK. So I found myself with two offers post chartered 5 years indentured training. Do I go to North Wales for this first project in the UK, immersed tube tunnel? Fantastic. You sink caissons in the estuary, and then you hydraulically pump sand underneath them to bed the caissons, and then you flood. You then cover them up. Or the Channel Tunnel. So I've got to say, my physics teacher in 1975 showed the physics class a video of the Channel Tunnel attempt in 1975, and it failed after about 6 months. It didn't have the right funding. It didn't have the right plan. It hadn't got enough political buy-in. And I remember that video of the 1975 Channel Tunnel project. So, of course, in 1987, I had to go for the Channel Tunnel. It was the biggest project in the world, £9 billion, and French and the Brits are suddenly going to join up, you know, and you've got to be part of history, haven't you? You've just got to. So, in mid 1987, I found myself as one of the first 50 engineers on the Channel Tunnel project in Kent, and that camaraderie of engineering spirit across all professional dimensions was put together. Royal Ascent was achieved in July '87, and there I was as one of the youngest members of the Channel Tunnel project team, and I took my civils exam in October '87 and got it in January the 1st, '88. So here I am, having done 5 odd years postgraduate training, and I'm amongst the best of the best tunnelers in the world. They've done Cairo Waste, they've done the Hong Kong Mass Transit Tunnel, and I'm the junior, but I'm in the squad. So you've made it. You've got a badge of office, you've got your CEng, MIC, and you're ready to go. And you're just sponging up all this global experience that has come in from Hong Kong, Cairo, all around the world, and you're in the thick of it.
You're a real winner.
Yeah, so I'm chuffed to bits because I've passed muster. I've got interviewed and I'm in, and you won't squander that opportunity. And I think the hard slog of 5 years postgraduate training makes it all worth it, because you are suddenly, you're benchmarked, you've got CEng, you've got MICE, and you're in a group of people that are entrusted to build the Channel Tunnel. And I had a team of 7 people, you know, as you said, leading people, managing people, and it's all about relationships and respect. And I found myself on some critical path infrastructure to get the tunnel boring machines, the TBMs, into Shakespeare Cliff Dover, down a 100-meter shaft, 10-meter diameter, and then being reassembled underground to then build the Channel Tunnel from the British side. So I'm 26, and I'm there with a squad of 7 engineers, my team, and we are designing and building roads for the TBMs to get into Shakespeare Cliff to then start cutting rock on the Channel Tunnel by the 1st of December 1988. And the interesting thing, you talked, Ankita, about risk. There was £1 million liquidated damages per day if the tunnel didn't cut rock, the TBMs didn't cut rock by the 1st of December 1988. So you've got that £1 million a day
Yeah.
in your ear,
Yeah.
and you're going, I am not going to be the person that damage is levied.
That up.
And that focuses the whole team on the deliverable. And you're just going, we're going to get these TBMs up and over the cliffs, the White Cliffs of Dover, down a 100-meter shaft, reassembled, and then cutting rock. And we did it.
Stephen, I just imagine how you guys used to sleep at night, because like that 1 million coming over here, it used to be like when you went for the pillar and you were like, okay, 1 million, 1 million, 1 million. I don't know how you guys slept. Like, it was so difficult.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think, you know, risk management, you absolutely live by the program. Yeah. Are we behind program, ahead of program? What are we going to do? Because engineers create and solve problems. And you encounter a problem, and it's not about blame. It's about, right, we've encountered a problem. What's the solution? And let's consider our solutions and our options, and let's do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the spirit of being an engineer, a builder. It's about solving problems and actually achieving milestones and delighting our clients and doing a good and safe job. So, you know, it's, you know, I was very lucky. I was very fortunate, and to be on that project for 2 years was amazing. And the 7 members of the team were just, you know, a truly incredible team. And leadership is all about, you know, winning together. It doesn't matter who scores the goal, as long as we score the goal. And we achieved the deadline. And my team went down the Channel Tunnel 2 days after they cut rock, as it was our thank you note for getting the TBMs down the tunnel. And you went right to the head of the tunnel to see the machine, and you're going, yeah, we've helped make this happen.
Yeah.
We have contributed to making this happen.
I think
that's the reward.
That's fantastic, and that's right. And I think I was saying in another conversation or interview last week, the reason why so many of us love the built environment and working in the built environment, and this was proven in our senior professional survey that Nova's conducted this year, was that it's that ability to stand back and look at something you've contributed to. It was actually a group of high school kids I was speaking to last week, and I said, you know, it's so fantastic that what you've contributed to isn't stuck in a drawer somewhere. It's there out in the open for you to drive past, for you to walk past, for you to point at. And of course, it's a team effort, but you're part of that team, and that piece of infrastructure or that building or whatever you've contributed to in the built environment is standing there proud for many, many years. And that's something that we all get a buzz out of, those of us who work in this sector. I think we'll finish our first part there. That's been fantastic. And Stephen, we might have to get you back for a English Channel discussion, because I didn't know you worked on the Channel project, and I think that's so fascinating. It's one of those projects that you do sort of admire, absolutely. So we might wrap up our first part there and have a quick breather, then launch the second. Thanks for watching the first part of our Industry Insights interview with Stephen Wells, Director at Codicote. I'm joined by Ankita Keeney from our Novus committee today as well. This is part 2 of our interview with Stephen. We had a really interesting part 1, and fascinated at the end of that first section to hear about Stephen's work on the Channel project. So, Stephen, what I do know about you is that you're a man about town, and you're big on your relationships, and you know everybody, and everybody knows you. So you've also had a lot of business development experience, but I guess trained as an engineer. Um, so in about 2000, if I'm correct, you moved from sort of that trade-based engineering work and into business development and business strategy and things like that. So I'm really interested to hear about why you decided to make that sort of career shift. And I think, you know, students who whether they might have studied, or graduates whether they might have studied architecture, construction, engineering, you know, a lot of them do certainly have a flair for business and strategy and things like that. So I think a lot of our Novus community would be really interested to hear how someone has gone from you know, practicing engineering and into business and business development. If you want to take us through that.
Yes, thank you for that great question. And look, I think after 17 years working in what was one of the largest global tier one contractors in the world, you learn a lot about client relationships. You are daily delivering projects for clients and their clients, our stakeholder groups. And I was fascinated that engineers and builders, we are tasked to build things correctly, appropriately, as always. Essentially, what we do daily is we're relating to people and communities to make projects that help people in their daily lives. And I think what fascinated to me after 17 years design and building things, which I was incredibly proud of, and I never underestimate the complexity and the responsibility of doing that. I got hooked on building businesses from nothing. And I was fortunately being mentored by the group business development director of Wimpy Engineering, a guy called Bob Sutton, who was 25 years older than me. And he was tasked to show me the ropes and mentor me to start building new client relationships for brand new clients. And one of the first meetings I ever attended with him was with the head of construction capital expenditure for Thames Water, which was a 4,100 company that the company wanted to do more with. We wanted to expand our relationship with Thames Water. And because I'd spent 9 years with a team building, design and building water treatment works and sewage treatment works, I was the natural shoe-in to help him build a relationship with Thames Water. And I think after 6 months of this work, I realized that it was actually exciting. It was very thought-provoking. And I think what made it for me was that in building relationships with new clients, you have to bring all the smarts from building things and your innovation to the front end in building a relationship with a new client. Because why would a new client choose you? Why are you better or different or both than your competitors? So here I was, you know, just approaching the age of 40, and I thought, well, hang on, you've got to be very clever and very adept. You've got to build the right team to start developing new business and new business streams. And you've then got to use critical reasoning skills of, well, hang on, are we going to be better than the competition? What do we bring? What are the skill sets we need to learn? Have we got all the accoutrements of doing that? And what I found was that in the year 2000, I was headhunted to go into an international water and wastewater business that not only designed and built water and sewage plants around the world, they also built, owned and operated them. So they were into concessions and what is classically called PPPs.
Yeah.
So I think my education and my training within Wimpy Engineering Construction had brought me to the point where I wanted to be strategic thinking and business development at the front end to start growing new business. And I think the enormity of and challenge of that job was exciting. It's almost like you've spent nearly 20 years learning to get on the grid to start building new business. And of course, building a new business, you're then recruiting graduates, you're recruiting middle management, you're poaching people from the competition, you're looking at competitor analysis, you're doing pests. You're actually starting to use your brain in a different way, because you're going, right, you've got nearly 20 years experience. How do I start looking at structuring new companies? And I think the challenge in 2000 was that Bywater International had a 30-year heritage, but they wanted to expand Bywater International in a very structured way. And I was given the keys to the toy cupboard, in that I was allowed to work with the business and set a new strategy for Bywater International. And I think my formative training, professional as a chartered engineer and 17 years operational experience with Wimpy Engineering, was perfect, because I went into that business and started to look at the team. And what we did, we spent 6 months looking at global supply chains of pumps, valves, equipment, motor control centers, everything. We started to look at local design, outsourcing design from the center in the UK. And we started to put a global supply chain, a set of local design partners. So we were doing design audits in the Americas, Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and we were starting to assemble key partners that played to the central excellence of Bywater International. And your training then puts you into a place where you're assembling a new business unit, and you're understanding the risk, but you're also looking at the rewards. And the beauty of that was we had 9 business plans from Central America to the Philippines, and after 6 months, we decided to go with 6 out of 9, and we then concentrated on those 6 business units worldwide. And within 2 years, we started winning new work. We won a $250 million deal, US, in Dominican Republic, to design and build 3 new treatment plants and set up a raw water network. We won a major sewage treatment works, state-of-the-art sewage treatment works in Trinidad and Tobago. And what I like about that 4-year stint in Bywater was that your formative education and training then started to rebuild a business that had got a 30-year heritage. And we started to compete with the big French water process contractors, Compagnie Générale des Eaux, Lyonnaise des Eaux, that became Suez, and Compagnie Générale des Eaux became Vivendi. And what I love is the competitive nature of global water. We were a minnow compared to those French entities that were the iconic water process contractors worldwide. And this small company from Dorking and Surrey in the UK reassembled itself and beat the French at their own game.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mark of excellence, that you're not intimidated by the David and Goliaths of this world.
Yeah.
You set up a strategy to compete, but on your basis.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hallmark and DNA of being truly strategic. And I think what I learned in that 4-year slot was that business development is not gin and tonics. It's a lot of people call business development gin and tonic brigade. It's far from it. It's actually bringing all the smarts of construction methodology, innovative engineering solutions, value add building solutions to the front end.
That's
and
right.
Your clients demand that innovation and smarts at the front end.
Well, at the end of the day, you've got to walk the walk. You can't just talk the talk. And I think what I'm hearing from that sort of anecdote, Stephen, is that you put in a significant amount of pre-work before those wins started coming in, and yes. You've traveled the globe with your team, and you've set up the foundation and you spent time, money, and energy in setting up a strong foundation to then go out and compete, rather than just compete from day one and sort of make it up as you go along. And I think that's a really interesting point. You know, you've got to invest the time up front and enjoy some of those gains and windfalls later.
You do, and look, I think it's about curiosity and asking questions, and I'm the world's best at asking stupid questions. I think, you know, asking a question and then listening and assimilating the information, and it's never about one person knows all the answers. And the other business case I'd mention is that in 2003, in Costain, we set up a nuclear decommissioning business from scratch. There was 4 or 5 of us, and there was a really smart operational nuclear guy who was same age as me, spent 30 years in the nuclear business. The prerequisite of nuclear decommissioning is that to actually dismantle 18, 19 civilian nuclear reactors is far more complex than building them, because they're hot and they're live and they're dangerous. So part of new nuclear build opportunity in the UK was there was a £40 billion decommissioning market to decommission 18 nuclear reactors. So what do you need to do that? That's the question. That's the exam question. So then you find out there's 5 dynamics of nuclear decommissioning, and it's blue collar workers, health physics, safety case, robotic mechanical handling, and design. And then you want to find out, well, who are the best in those 5 dynamic parts of the jigsaw puzzle? So you're going to have conversations with the best of the best on those 5 areas of specialism. You then build relationships and build a supply chain. So in Costain, we had no CapEx fund to go and buy nuclear expertise. So we formed supply chain relationships. And a major competitors of ours, who I won't name, spent £100 million buying 3 nuclear companies. We formed relationships with 5 companies. 2.5 years later, after winning a £6.5 million job and then a £25 million job, Costain Nuclear won a £700 million job at Sellafield on 5 relationships. The other company, unfortunately, didn't win that job, but they spent £100 million. We formed 5 relationships. That nuclear business in Costain was turning over £100 million a year and was employing 300 design engineers and numerous people on site at Sellafield, which is the most complex nuclear site in Europe. So for me, building a team that understands that dynamic of business development and strategy and strategic thinking is absolutely exciting and carries huge responsibility, but I love it. And it's about that team dynamic. And you know, this tier 1 global competitor had consciously spent 100 million, and I think they did the right thing for them. Unfortunately, we had more smarts than they did, and we achieved client excellence by our solution. You know, I think the proof of the pudding is that nearly 20 years later, that business is still thriving, and part of the hop from operations to business development for me makes me feel good that the contribution you make is that business is still very viable and sustainable, and the livelihoods connected to that business is as a result of 5 of us writing a plan and making it happen. So that's it in a nutshell. You know, you've got my 2 best examples.
Fantastic. And Kata?
Yep, that's really interesting to hear about those examples, Stephen, to be very honest. And as we know, UK is a beautiful place. So, but what made you what came into your mind and you're like, okay, let's go to Australia and continue there? Or I know you came in Australia in 2013, early 2013. And how was the market then in UK and over here? Was that your next challenge to take over maybe?
Yes, it was the next challenge. Look, I think having been part of an international business since 1999, 2000, I'd had the fortune of being invited into URS to in 2011 to integrate an oldie worldy British consultant, a global British consultant called Scott Wilson, that had been acquired by URS in September 2010. My job was to help integrate it with a small team at the center to integrate a heritage, world reputable company that had designed London Gateway Port and amazing things, Chetlock Airport in Hong Kong, into an American corporate. And we spent a year doing that. And, you know, you've got a cultural envelope of bringing the Brits and the Americans together. And I think we did about 30 iterations of the team chart over about 46 weeks to, you know, it was like achieving world peace, putting the Brits and the Americans together. Yeah, and I think what fascinated me in that small team, there's 4 of us at the center, putting those 2 engineering giants together, was that when it boils down to it, engineers have a common language irrespective of geography, and that unites us. And the good thing about that integration was that in the first full year of trading, that company, that business exceeded the plan by 15%. So the combined effort exceeded the business plan by 15%, which I think was a great team result. They scored a goal and they did better by 15%. Fantastic. What happened? Somebody in Australia made a phone call to me from Rialto Tower I'm sat in Sicily with my family, and they said, we've heard a few things about you. We'd love you to come to Australia and work with a firm called Oricon and help them grow globally. And I'm sat by the pool in Sicily with my family, and I'm going, why would I go to Australia? And they said, well, you know, you'd love it. Melbourne is the most livable city in the world, and it's just a fantastic place to live and operate. And look, the chief executive of Oricon invited me and my wife over to Australia in October 2012, and we said, wow, this is a great opportunity. And part of it is that URS and Scott Wilson were fantastic. And I think with Oricon, they'd been around for 70, 80 years. They'd merged with an African company. And the challenge was, how do you grow Oricon to be a worldwide player? And their strapline was leading, vibrant, global. And I think if anybody knows me, part of what I love doing is the challenge to do something that's different. And you get to live and operate in this fantastic country. Yeah. It's amazing. And look, I think Oricon has got 7,000 people, and they're very smart people. They've designed a nuclear facility that makes medical isotopes for healthcare. They've got such an understated set of people. It's incredible. They've designed stadia all around the world. They've, you know, Sunshine Coast Hospital. The things they've done is truly incredible. And I think part of what we were doing was they'd had a bad year in 2012 off the resource, the mining collapse with the iron ore. So part of what we had to do was to relook at the client list and say, right, how do we keep Oricon being sustainable but global? And look, during my tenure, my 3-year tenure with them, we grew sales back by over 20%. So I think we reformed where the client engagement should be, who the critical clients to its ongoing business, and we made the business less susceptible to shocks in the resources sector. Right. And I think that conversation across the leadership group, and there was 70 units of engineers across Africa, Middle East, Asia, and Australia, New Zealand. I think it made them have a conversation about who are the clients, who are the clients that matter and who are the clients that are going to be the long-term sustainable clients for the company.
Yeah.
And the challenge was, you get to see another part of the world and you operate with such world-class engineering that it was an easy decision. And and we love Australia, so why not? And I think for all your Novus members and CIOB members, I always say, during your career, you will be exposed to a few opportunities, and go vulnerable and show courage is what I say to aspiring graduates and members of the team. It's too easy to become case hardened with same old. And I think today you've given me the great opportunity to explain a few career choices along my route. If you do get the opportunity to embrace a challenge, have a go. But if it's for you, I'm not judging anybody. If it's not for you, fine. But occasionally in your career, you'll be confronted with, wow, that sounds interesting. I'd like a shot at that.
That's right.
And I've mentioned to graduates and mentoring people and coaching people, half the battle is saying, yes, I'm going to give it a go. And I think, taking the challenge and not knowing, a lot of people think, well, I don't know all the answers in that job. Well, you'll grow into it.
Yeah.
And if you ask questions, you don't understand that. Could you walk me through that? Can you tell me more? I don't understand. Could you run that past me again? Most people will take the trouble to explain things, and that's how I've operated. And I'm passionate about what I do and who I work with. So thank you for all those questions.
No worries. We've just got one last one for you, Stephen, before we let you go. Now, it's hard to not do an interview at this point in time without touching on the global pandemic that is COVID. The three of us are currently in Melbourne under stage 4 restrictions, where the ugly cousin of all the states here in Victoria, and no one wants anything to do with us. And you're currently at Codicote as a director, and I guess I would describe Codicote as a somewhat boutique, high performing construction consultancy, construction and development consultancy. And I've sort of been indirectly aware of Codicote through Mark and yourself for a number of years now, and I do mean that you are a high performing team, and I think the sector sees that, and you win some great work with University of Melbourne and Armstrong Creek, and doing working in growth areas, and I think you've got a few opportunities on the horizon in the sunny state coming up as well. So I'm interested in what is it like now at Codicote, and how you're building and maintaining your relationships in this new world, and what you hope is on the horizon for Codicote as a company.
And thank you for that final question. Look, certainly COVID-19 has certainly challenged us all, and I think we've risen to it with this use of technology. Zoom, Microsoft Teams, have all helped us massively. I think we in Codicote, because we're as you said, a boutique consultancy, we're not chasing volume. We've got a very select list of complex projects that we love delivering for our clients. So I think the good thing is, because we're relatively small, to our peer group, we don't chase volume. We chase complex projects. Our strapline is simplifying complexity and delivering certainty and realizing our clients' dreams. I think that has done us really well, because deliver high quality for fewer clients, and they'll get better value. And I think that's our hallmark, and we stick to it. And I think that's very important in strategic thinking. Certainly delivering Armstrong Creek, which is the cornerstone of a $1 billion 15-year development for Wellco, Welsh Group as before, and you interviewed Andrew Welsh, I think, last year.
That's right.
You know, we got that handed over spot on time with Coles was the anchor tenant, and Coles were over the moon that it opened for trading on the 29th of July, despite the COVID-19 difficulties.
Yeah.
And I think that plays to an earlier comment that when everything gets thrown at you, what's the solution? Now, I've got to say Hutchinson Builders did brilliant. They embraced COVID-19 working practices. We embraced it as a team, the whole development team, the client team, everybody jumped into play. How are we going to do this? We had a little tricky moment with battens coming from China, and we had several potential notice of delays with no time or cost. And in the end, those 3 notices of delays didn't materialize. And I think you have this ability to communicate and absolutely hold your nerve and look at the risk, going back to, Ankita's comment about risk management. We knew there was a risk from China, and you go, what if, what if, what if? Yeah. And you prepare those what ifs. So, I think testament to heritage building companies like Hutchinson's, that they don't lose their nerve. They hold their nerve, and you've got plan A, plan B, plan C. And we brought that in, and Coles were delighted. They were 30% trading beyond their expectations on day one. So job done, the whole team wins, we all scored the goal. I think what's next for Codicote is exciting. This country will depend on infrastructure to make development even more successful. So, infrastructure absolutely underpins development. And part of our new plan in Codicote is to go up a gear on infrastructure. And I think, our MD, Dave Jenkins, is a truly entrepreneurial. He's very much into investing in the future. He is giving us headroom to grow a business that plays more to infrastructure, that then works with his development team, with the developers and the client developers that we work for. So the future is always a challenge, but I think one of the things we talk about in Codicote is that when the chips are down, the leanest and fittest will win the day. And Dave has got a big athletic background, a lot of road running, a lot of cycling. Yeah. I think he did the public day on the Tour de France way back, and I don't think there are many mountains he hasn't climbed. So how do you retain a company fitness? And you've got to be agile, you've got to be ahead of the pack. And the good thing about us is, because we're engineers, builders, architects, QSs, we've got a very good global team. I've got several Italian team members, several members from Brazil. We're cosmopolitan. We've got an array of engineering professions, and I think that keeps us super fit. And never underestimate your competition, but we go back to the heart of what we do. It's about clients. Maybe we're agile in choosing the clients that we want to work with because they've got the right culture, the right values, and the right people. So I think COVID-19 has given us a real big challenge this year, and we haven't underestimated. But I do miss the personal interaction of having a coffee with somebody. I used to drink tea before I came to Australia. Now I only drink coffee. We are a very coffee society. So I am not struggling, but technology is great, but we do love, the interaction over a coffee and in the fresh air. And so, it's exciting. There's more to do. So thank you for that last question, which is not an easy one to answer.
That's totally true, Stephen. I can say coffee is love for me also now. Even like you, I was a tea person before in India, but now
Yeah.
coffee has like taken me over. Like I just go around for coffee. I really crave for good coffee. So
Yes.
Stephen, thanks for asking and answering all our questions. All the questions were really answered well and were really specific. I feel the graduates are 100% motivated by hearing to you what you had your like from your start, your experiences, your journey from UK to Australia. And it has been like a challenging time for everyone during this COVID-19, but I hope all the best for everyone to cope well. And thanks, Ria, for having me as a part of Novus and having a chance to like interview Stephen, whom I never expected to like be like face to face anytime soon, because like from a student to a person sitting in front of you right now, it's like a big opportunity, Stephen, to be very honest. Thanks a lot, Weir. Thanks, seriously, thanks a lot for that.
Thank you, Ankita, and that's what Novus is all about, really propelling students and grads into industry, and helping students and graduates and young professionals meet people like yourself, Stephen, hear about your experiences, learn about your experiences, and start building their network. So, Ankita, thanks very much for being a co-host with me. Really great to have you. Stephen, massive thanks for coming on and sharing so much with us, and really looking forward to working together on the other side of this pandemic, and catching up, hopefully sooner rather than later.
Good. Thank you both, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to you and your amazing members. So thank you.